passage practicing exercise. Today we are going to practice protection of women in live-in relationship from domestic violence. Now this is a growing concept, right? Previously living out of wedlock was a taboo, nobody allowed it, and whether if people in fact practiced it, they used to do it in a very hush hush manner so that nobody could know कि भाई वो शादी के बिना एक दूसरे के साथ रह रहे हैं. But now, since the society is developing and the concept of marriage is slowly diluting, people have started living together without getting married. And now the problems that were married couple problems are starting to manifest in this relationship as well, which is the problem of domestic violence. Now the question comes that, since a lady is living with a guy and, she's giving him all the rights that she would to her husband, and they are kind of living like a married couple, but the ceremony nahi hui hai. So would she, incur the same rights, or would she be conferred upon by the same rights and privileges that a married woman does? So let's before that, you should know that there is an All India Open mock which would be live on 25th August and it will continue till 3rd of September. Right, so all the attempts, video, everything will be, it is something that we have attempted it on our own or मतलब by ourselves. तो कोई भी जो भी तुम मॉक करोगे इसकी सारी की सारी एक्सप्लेनेशंस और अटेम्प्ट्स जो है वो हम तुम्हें समझाएंगे जैसे हमने लास्ट सैटरडे किया था. राइट, सो डी-डे स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होनी चाहिए इस ओपन मॉक से पता चल सकती है, बिकॉज देयर वुड बी थाउजेंड्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स ऑल ओवर द कंट्री टेकिंग दिस session. Then obviously you would get a video solution of all the queries that you might face while facing mocks, and of course then you can analyze yourself on the pedestal with other students as well, because when you do a mock yourself, that's a different thing, but when you do it among the peers that you'd have to face in the actual exam, then it becomes a different situation. So make sure that you attempt this. It is available free of cost, so there's no cost that you need to incur. There's nothing that you have to do, just register and attempt. Right, now let's start with the passage. You know what to do, please start. अब ये बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है जजमेंट. देखो, केरला हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है, इट्स नॉट अ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट. नेम ऑफ द जजमेंट इज विनीत गणेश वर्सेस प्रियंका वासन. A female victim of violence of any kind at the hands of a man with whom she was in a domestic relationship can file a case under domestic violence. Because we are actually talking about domestic violence, not marriage violence. So anyone who is in a situation which would classify as a domestic situation would be governed by the Domestic Violence Act if any of the act ensues, right? So it's a very beautiful interpretation. Moving on. Are you done? Good evening, guys. How are you all? मैरिज नहीं हुई तो क्यों लॉ अप्लीकेबल? मैंने अभी बताया तो सही, ये डोमेस्टिक सिचुएशन है, ये मैरिज वायलेंस एक्ट नहीं है, इट इज अ डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट, right? So domestic is even you staying with your parents would constitute as a domestic habitation, right? So that is what the interpretation that the court has given, ki bhai it is a domestic relationship and it is covered under the Domestic Violence Act if at all there is any kind of domestic violence taking place. Okay, female living in a nature of a marriage also eligible to seek reliefs under the DV Act. May be noted that going by the definition of the respondent in section 2Q of the DV, a female living in a relationship in the nature of a marriage, in other words, living in a relationship, may also file an application under section 12 of the DV Act, the court observed. Okay. आगे बढ़े. Are we done? You're taking too long. Why would that be detriment to a lady if the petition is allowed to be transferred to a civil court or a family court? This is the reason. Since a family court is empowered to entertain disputes between the parties to a marriage only, this would leave out women who are in live-in relationships. They would not have any remedy in a family court or a civil court because they are only empowered to adjudicate matters out of relationships that are either blood relationships or marriage that or relationships that are by law, right? So it can be marriage or any kind of immediate relationship, blood relationship. Now, since a live-in relationship would fall in under neither, then high court or family court or civil court would not have any jurisdiction, and the lady would not get a remedy. And that is the reason why high court says that the transfer is not a wise idea. It's not a good idea. Application under 12 of the DV Act cannot be transferred from a magistrate to a family court. Only a magistrate is empowered to give a proper resolution. Family court के पास ये power नहीं है. Okay, चलो आगे बढ़ जाते हैं. Now there is a workshop basically on 27th of August at 6 p.m. Right, 100 days to CLAT 24. So everyone who's still wondering what to do, how to do, you can attend this workshop. You'll get a very good guidance. Question number 1. Rose and David have been in a live-in relationship for 3 years. Rose suspected David of having an affair with his office colleague. When she confronted David, David physically assaults her. Following the Kerala High Court's recent observation, decide. Now, what is the question? Decide whether Rose can file a domestic violence case against David under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. ठीक है, this is the question. क्या रोज डीवी एक्ट के अंडर डेविड के अगेंस्ट केस फाइल कर सकती है? दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. चलो ऑप्शंस देख लेते हैं. द आंसर इज यस. द आंसर इज यस, राइट. सो हम नो के इन ऑप्शंस को हटा देंगे. Yes, since she is married to David. No, she is not married to David. The only answer that we are left with is yes, since she qualifies for protection under DV Act. That is what the Kerala High Court has also held. Right? So B is the correct option. किस किस का निकला B? Okay, Manu, Soumya, Jia, very good. Yes, moving on. Tulip and cactus were once in a live-in relationship and lived together in the same household. Even after their live-in relationship ended, cactus continues to harass and threaten Tulip. Based on the Kerala High Court's interpretation, decide whether Tulip can file a domestic violence case against cactus under the DV Act. Now, they're not living together, mind you, right? So the question is, can she file a case under DV Act since they're not living together anymore? And the answer is no. She cannot. She may file a criminal complaint under IPC, but she cannot file a case under DV Act because the domestic habitation has ended. Right? So, yes. No, since Tulip does not live with cactus anymore, that is true. But what was the actual reasoning that was given by the High Court? The domestic relationship, right? DV Act applies to live-in couples because of the nature of their relationship, which is domestic. So, the correct answer would be B. क्योंकि ये passage से ज़्यादा close है. ये भी सही है. देखो, no, since Tulip does not live with cactus anymore, सही है ये. This is also correct, right? लेकिन पैसेज का जो इंटरप्रिटेशन है वो इट इज बेस्ड ऑन द डोमेस्टिक नेचर ऑफ अ रिलेशनशिप कि भाई रिलेशनशिप का नेचर क्या है, डोमेस्टिक है, और इसी वजह से डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट भी इस पे अप्लाई हो जाना चाहिए भले ही इन लोगों की शादी नहीं हुई है. तो पैसेज के रीजन की वजह से, केरला हाई कोर्ट के इंटरप्रिटेशन की वजह से, उनके रैशनेल की वजह से बी सही ऑप्शन होगा. राइट? सो यू माइट फेस दीज सिचुएशंस वेयर यू फेस सिमिलर ऑप्शंस एंड बोथ of them seem correct and you are confused as to which one would fetch you marks. So the answer or the option that is going to get you marks is the option that is in the passage. ठीक है? B is the correct answer. क्या? This is wrong. No, they can't. हाँ, B सही है. This is not. ये गलत दे रखा है इसमें. एक सेकंड, मैंने क्या पढ़ तो नहीं लिया गलत? एक्ट डिफाइंस डोमेस्टिक, टू पीपल लिव्ड. नहीं, मेरा आंसर सही है. इट इज बी. ओके, इस पे मत जाओ. चलो, हैरी एंड जिनी हैव बीन इन अ लिव इन रिलेशनशिप फॉर 3 years, शेयरिंग अ हाउस होल्ड एंड लिविंग टुगेदर एज अ कपल. Harry has been subjecting Ginny to physical and emotional abuse. As per court's observation, decide whether, अच्छा whether है, Molly, Ginny's mother, can file application under section 12 of the Domestic Violence Act seeking relief against the abuse of a daughter is facing from Harry. IPC can provide the remedy. Yes, you're right. Okay, so this is basically they are a couple living in together and the partner, one of the partner is abusive and the mother of the daughter wants to file a complaint under DV Act. The question is, can she? अगर ये शादी होती तो वो कर सकती थी, right? लेकिन अब शादी नहीं है तो क्या वो कर सकती है? ऑप्शन देख लेते हैं. Yes, since any female can file an application under section 12. Yes, since Molly is also a female within the definition of section 2Q of the DV Act. No, since Molly is Ginny's mother and all she can do is to convince Ginny to file an application cannot be determined. Now, passage में देख लेते हैं. These kinds of questions, going to the passage once again is not a bad idea. So let's read the passage and see if we can find something that can support our answer. तो यहाँ से वो पैसेज शुरू. केरला हाई कोर्ट रिसेंटली ऑब्जर्व्ड वुमेन लिव इन रिलेशनशिप. ओके, यहाँ कुछ नहीं है. सेकंड पैसेज में फीमेल विक्टिम वायलेंस हैड द हैंड्स ऑफ अ मैन, ये भी नहीं है. आगे बढ़ते हैं. बेंच नोटेड एक्ट डिफाइंस डोमेस्टिक रिलेशन, टू पीपल हैड एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम लिव टुगेदर इन अ शेयर्ड हाउस होल्ड when they are related by consanguinity, marriage or through a relationship in the nature of a marriage. Actually फिर तो डी आंसर सही था, फिर तो मेरा आंसर से गलत हो गया. See, defines domestic relationship as a relationship between two persons who live or have at any point of time lived together. Past भी applicable है. in a shared household when they are related by consanguinity, marriage, or through a relationship in the nature of marriage, adoption, or are family members. Well, in that case, D is the correct option. B सही नहीं है. What do you know? चलो अभी उसे सही कर देते हैं. आगे भी पढ़ लेते हैं. From the above definition, possible for a woman alone seeks relief under the DV Act. Further, a female living in a relationship in a nature may also eligible to seek. Going by the definition, female living in a relationship, nature of a marriage. एक second. Definition, female living in a relationship in the nature of a marriage. In other words, living in relationship may also file an application, right? So the female can file. Considering an appeal filed by a man wanted to transfer etc. यहाँ पे तो कुछ था ही नहीं. और यहाँ पे भी हमने पढ़ा था indiscriminate qualification. Actually, there is nothing that can support the rationale. ना तो yes है ना no है. The correct answer would be that it cannot be determined because we really don't know. इसका सही आंसर D होगा. मैंने पैसेज की लाइन को मिस कर दिया. Yes, since they once lived in a domestic situation, तो फिर of course Tulip can file a complaint. I should have read it properly. Don't do the mistakes. देखो ऐसे पढ़ते पढ़ते mistakes हो जाती हैं, छोटी छोटी mistakes. Does that only victim can file? Actually the passage is not clear. पैसेज बिल्कुल भी क्लियर नहीं है इस बात पे कि सिर्फ विक्टिम ही फाइल कर सकता है या विक्टिम से रिलेटेड भी कोई फाइल कर सकता है. सो इट शुड बी डी. वी कैनॉट रियली डिटरमाइन इट, राइट? द डेफिनेशन सेज दैट अ फीमेल इन अ लिविंग इन रिलेशनशिप कैन फाइल अ कंप्लेंट. द जनरल aspect of domestic violence says that if the relative of the victim can also file a complaint. CRPC भी provide करता है इस चीज को. The offenses against marriage can be reported by a direct relative of the wife, right? But यहाँ पे तो शादी ही नहीं है, तो it really cannot be determined. The passage does not give us enough information to say anything conclusively. Question number 4. Assuming Harry and Ginny are now married and are no more a live-in couple, can now Molly file an application under Section 12 of the DV Act seeking relief against the abuse her daughter is facing from Harry? अब शादी हो गई है, सिचुएशन चेंज हो गई है, तो क्या अब कर सकती है वो? Section 12 of the domestic seeking relief against the abuse her daughter is facing from Harry. अब हम डिटरमाइन कर सकते हैं इस चीज को. Can we determine it now? Is the passage telling us anything related to what right does a relative have in cases of abuses or domestic abuses or domestic violence? The correct answer still would be D. We still don't know. Right, domestic violence की बात हो रही है, living in relationships. How the situation has changed. ये कैसे तुमने कहा? How do you know? Passage बता रहा है क्या तुम्हें? Is passage telling you? I told you, you cannot assume something that the passage doesn't tell you unless the question specifically asks you to assume. राइट, सोचने वाली बात है. पैसेज जब कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन दे ही नहीं रहा विक्टिम के रिलेटिव के बारे में, चाहे वो डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस लिव इन रिलेशनशिप का हो या प्रॉपर मैरिज का, तो हम कुछ भी नहीं कह सकते. और जब हम कुछ कह ही नहीं सकते तो डी सही आंसर होगा. इट कैन नॉट बी डिटरमाइंड. वी डोंट नो. द पैसेज डज नॉट से एनीथिंग इन दैट रिगार्ड. राइट. Question number 5. Assuming that Ginny, who is now, what is this word? Willing to file a complaint against Harry because of social stigma that a woman has to face after divorce, is now left with no recourse. Hence, she decides to take revenge by subjecting Harry to domestic violence with the help of her maid. Wow. Can Harry file an application under Section 12 of the domestic violence seeking relief against the abuse he's facing? Willing. अच्छा, अब जिनी डिवोर्स नहीं लेना चाहती है तो उसने बदला लेने का सोचा है. शी हैज डिसाइडेड टू बिकम कोमलिका. और अब वो कोमलिका कैसे बन गई है कि जो उसे प्रताड़ित करता था वो उसको प्रताड़ित करने लगी है, वो भी मेड के साथ मिलके. हाउ कूल इज दैट? ऑप्शंस देखें जरा. Yes, since Harry is married to Ginny and DV Act is applicable to violence caused in marriages. Yes, since Ginny has subjected Harry to domestic violence. Yes, Harry will succeed but only against Ginny and not against his maid. No, Harry will not succeed because DV Act is inapplicable to Harry's situation. The question is DV Act applicable? Willing, huh? False prosecution. The correct answer is D. Actually, this option, the question सही नहीं है. Again, passage में enough information नहीं है ये बताने के लिए कि भाई who can seek protection. The passage is clearly, you know, providing information in relation to females. D कह रहे हो तुम लोग. Harry will not succeed because DV Act is not DV Act is inapplicable. क्यों? उसे भी तो डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस फेस करना पड़ रहा है, तो inapplicable कैसे है? Why is it inapplicable? ये क्वेश्चन थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ है. The fact that you have answered is very good, but this question is not entirely correct. Right, again, there is not enough information that can suggest an answer that can make you reach a conclusion. So, I don't think this is right, but since you have answered, जो बहुत अच्छी बात है. चलो, okay. Female living in a relationship, nature of a marriage, possible for a woman alone. अच्छा, दे रखा है पैसेज में. मैंने ही नहीं पढ़ा है पैसेज इस बार ध्यान से. तुम लोगों ने पढ़ा है. Woman alone seeks relief under the DV Act. So DV Act basically considers that only a woman can be subjected to violence, not a man. Right. मुझे ये पता था कि ये women centric act है. Men के लिए कोई रेमेडी नहीं है domestic violence में. Well, okay. Revenge is the intention. Shall everybody understands that we have launched courses and test series and everything, right? We have crash courses, comprehensive courses, which are in the nature of crash because we are going to start and conclude, you know. हाँ, of course, women के लिए है. मैंने DV Act है women के लिए, but मैंने वो वर्ड मैंने मिस कर दिया जो इस बात को सजेस्ट कर रहा था. आई थॉट पैसेज तो बता ही नहीं रहा है कि women alone के लिए है, बट तुम लोग ने ज्यादा ध्यान से पढ़ा. इट्स अ वेरी गुड थिंग. It's a very, very good thing. I'm really proud of you. Right, so we have launched courses, crash courses and everything. We have launched test series also. So everybody who's practicing, make sure that you, just download the app and unlock a trial which is available for 3 days without any cost, free. So you can make a decision whether or not to attend. Now, question number 6. Ron and Allison have chosen to live together without formal marriage, maintaining a live-in relationship. Similar to marriage. After 1 month, Ron catches Allison red-handed with her boss, but he forgives her. Ron is suggested to be extra cautious by his family members in case of Allison because of her past. Soon after this, कितनी लंबी कहानी है यार ये. Soon after this, Ron starts to control Allison's movements, restricts her interactions, becomes verbally abusive. In line with the court's interpretation, decide whether Allison, who is in a relationship, can seek relief under section 12 to address the abusive behavior exhibited by Ron. पढ़ लिया सबने? False prosecution. How is it false prosecution? False prosecution is a completely different thing. पढ़ लिया सबने? आगे बढ़ूं मैं? You know, since Allison is not subjected to any kind of physical violence. No, since Ron's actions are a result of Allison's past acts. Yes, since Allison is subjected to physical violence, this is wrong. She's not subjected to physical violence. No, since Allison is not subjected to any kind of physical violence. Now the question is, they have defined violence, domestic violence, not domestic physical violence. I think the answer should be D. तुम्हें क्या लगता है? मुझे लगता है कि आंसर डी होगा क्योंकि हाँ एलिसन कंप्लेन तो फाइल कर ही सकती है राइट और वायलेंस हैज बीन इंटरप्रेटेड टू इंक्लूड एवरी काइंड ऑफ वायलेंस वेदर इट इज मेंटल और फिजिकल. ओके यू आर सेइंग बी. some students are saying A, some students are saying B. I am saying that it is D. सोचने वाली बात है यार. तुम लोग इतना इमोशनल क्यों हो रहे हो? ये पिक्चर नहीं चल रही है बालकों. यहाँ पे लॉ अप्लाई होगा. ठीक है, तुम एकता कपूर का सीरियल नहीं बना रहे हो, तुम लीगल रीजनिंग के क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर रहे हो. दोनों में बहुत डिफरेंस है. राइट दोनों में बहुत बहुत डिफरेंस है. लॉ अप्लाई होता है ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट, पीछे क्या रहा कैसे रहा इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. द पॉइंट इज इस मोमेंट पे ये धारा लगेगी कि नहीं, अगर जवाब हाँ है तो हाँ लगेगी, पीछे आगे का कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. राइट तो सीरियल मत बनाओ यार, अपनी क्रिएटिविटी कहीं और उतारो, यहां मत उतारो. डी है सही आंसर. चलो समझ गए ना सारे, डी क्यों है सही आंसर. डालिया हु इज इन लिव इन रिलेशनशिप, लिविंग क्यों बोल रही हूं मैं, files a case of physical abuse against her partner Tom under section this. Tom appeals to transfer a case to family court hoping for a more favorable outcome. The court, considering the purpose of DV Act to protect women's rights, denies the transfer. Decide whether the order of the court denying the transfer request is valid. Valid है कि नहीं, बहुत ही आसान है, ये अभी हमने पढ़ा. Yes, since court is afraid of Tom bribing the family court judges. What? Yes, since the court is aware of low disposal rate of the cases by the family court. What? ये क्वेश्चन, ये ऑप्शन ही गलत है. Decide whether the order of the court denying transfer request is valid. Yes, it is valid. Yes, it is valid. यहाँ पे yes होना चाहिए था. ये सही आंसर है लेकिन ये no नहीं हो सकता, ये yes होगा. ऑप्शंस गलत हैं, समझे. आई एम श्योर इसका आंसर डी होगा इसमें. हाँ क्योंकि गलती हो गई है, ठीक से पढ़ा नहीं है. यस होगा यहाँ पे. यस द क्लेम इज वैलिड. तुम लोग समझ गए ना यस क्यों होगा. द क्लेम इज वैलिड बिकॉज फैमिली कोर्ट तो लिव इन रिलेशनशिप वाली वुमेन को एक्सक्लूड कर देगा ना, तो ऑब्वियसली यस. नो को यस चेंज कर लो, सिंस इट इज अ डोमेस्टिक मॉक तो हम ये कर सकते हैं. Family court would exclude women in live-in relationship and that is why the transfer denial is absolutely valid. Right? तो ये तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं होगा. Okay, so D is the correct option, but you have to change yes and no. इसमें मत confuse होना, बनाने वाले भी confuse हो जाते हैं, आप please ना होना. नहीं, ऑप्शन मैंने नहीं बनाया, that is not my work. Esther files a case under section 12 of the DV Act against her husband Michael in a magistrate court, alleging emotional and financial abuse. Michael is a rich business tycoon having various political connections. Michael wishes to have the case moved to a family court, believing it might result in a more balanced judgment. यहाँ पे शादी हो रखी है. The High Court, recognizing the DV Act intent to safeguard women's rights, rejects the transfer request. Decide whether the order is valid. अब क्वेश्चन है कि अब ये वैलिड है. Well, most of the times, yes, of course, they get a remedy. Is the court, is the transfer denial valid? It's not valid. It's not valid. B. Yes तो होगा ही नहीं, since family court exclude. No, why would it exclude Esther's claim? Esther is married to Michael, so of course she would be included. Jurisdiction of family court is inferior. How does that matter? B is the correct option. देख लो, देखो फैमिली कोर्ट में ट्रांसफर इसलिए डिनाई किया गया था ताकि जो लेडी है जिसने केस फाइल किया है उसको एक्चुअली रेमेडी मिल सके. फैमिली कोर्ट नहीं दे पाएगा, वो सिर्फ शादीशुदा औरतों को ही रेमेडी दे सकते. यहाँ पे शादी है, माइकल एंड एस्टर आर मैरिड, सो ऑफ कोर्स राइट. सो बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. So that's it for today. I think 24 UG text series शुरू हो गई है. UG is undergraduate. This is all that you have. You have more than 55 mocks, right? तो बहुत ही ज्यादा क्वांटिटी के मॉक्स है ये. रोज एक भी करोगे तो बहुत सारे मॉक्स हो जाएंगे, बट रोज एक करने की जरूरत नहीं है. दैट क्रिएट्स अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर. एनी हाउ यू गेट अनलिमिटेड एक्सेस, यू गेट to do them over and over again, which means that you can practice them and then analyze them and then practice them again so that you can improve the mistakes and everything. Now, these actually are designed by us, the experts and the toppers. We give you a proper analysis of your performance, and that is the reason why you need to subscribe to our test series. Then we have comprehensive courses for 24 and 25, both of which are available. You can subscribe to them. Make a decision, proper decision. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, guys. I shall see you again very soon. कल न्यूज़पेपर एनालिसिस क्लास है at 6 PM on the BYJU'S exam prep app. So let's meet with each other tomorrow. तब तक सब अपना ख्याल रखेंगे. Bye bye. Thank you so much.